did it again. I did it again. Took lots of pictures of the world behind my phone. So my morning conversations, the audio and video quality is substantially less than when I actually prepare this and do it ahead of time. But I'm going to share this video on my page real quick, friends, so you can, hopefully couple more people can see it. Hey, I have one person watching. Hi, two people. So I had some thoughts. Basically what happened was I had some thoughts in the wake of the presidential debate last night. And I want to be explicit in stating that this page is not it's not for politics. It's not a political page. That's not my intention in any way, shape, or form. But I think that, to be a woke, conscious, spiritual, aware person, however you want to refer to it, to be that person in the world, you have to engage with what is happening in local or in politics in the world in general. So I had some thoughts, and I was actually talking to an old friend of mine this morning, and it really kind of helped me solidify what my thoughts were on the morning after. So yes, it wasn't intentionally an attention-grabbing title. So I kind of wanted to just start a conversation around what it means to be a spiritual, conscious, woke, aware person in the light of a presidential debate, like the one that we saw last night. And I have to start off by saying this. As we grow, we have to be willing to admit areas that we failed in the past, and then to move forward, and to, instead of being hindered by who we've been or what we've done, we need to see that as a part of a greater thing that's building up within us and within the history of the world. Because the moral of the story is that when you know better, you do better, right? And I really believe that's true. I want to say it's Maya Angelou that quote is from, but when you know better, you do better. And I think that many people in the world, hey Morgan, this one's for you. Many people in the world, and not even many people in the world, all people are fallible, right? Many good people have come from weird, sordid, messed up places, right? And so the key to being like a fully self-actualized human, to being a human that does something in the world, the key to that isn't being perfect, but it's doing better when you know better, right? And so I want to start off a conversation thread, and I hope other people will join in, but I want to start off with just telling like a little bit of story of my life. So I'm also casually making my wife nervous because she thinks we're going to be late for work, and I'm sipping my coffee at the same time. So good times. But there's a couple stories that stick out in my life of honest, if I'm being honest, things I'd rather forget that I ever did. And I don't think my intentions were ever bad, but I was ignorant in the truest sense of the word ignorant, right? And so the first story that comes to mind is when I was in high school. I came from a really conservative Christian background, and I went to a lot of like conservative Christian events, and there was this really cool branded like tent at this one concert I went to, and they were selling shirts that say abortion is homicide. Black shirt, big white words. I bought that sweatshirt and I wore it every day. I grew up in a very hyper pro-life setting, and I didn't see any flaws with that because like that's just what I was taught was moral and good. But I remember this moment, and it was a moment that completely changed my whole life. I was sitting in Mr. Hesney's English class at Otto Welger Junior Senior High School, and I don't remember all the people were there, and I don't want to like tell anybody's story, so I'll just tell it nameless, but I was in Mr. Hesney's English class, and I can say that because he wasn't involved in the story. I don't know why, but he wasn't in the room at the time. And so I was wearing my abortion is homicide shirt, and one of my friends was pregnant in our senior class, And then another one of my friends, all of us were in this class. The other one of my friends looked at me, and so she's like, so you're saying that if she had an abortion, she's committing homicide and she should go to jail. And I was completely speechless in that moment. Because up until that moment, like, the idea of abortion being a homicide was just a black and white concept. Like, it was a thing. It was a mandate. But then in that moment, what that friend didn't realize that they were doing for me was they were flipping the script in my mind, and they were personifying it. And she was like, so you're saying that this makes your friend, if she were to have an abortion, a murderer? And then they went further and like, if she was raped, was it a murder? If the child was not healthy and probably not going to be able to live, is it a murder? Like, so she brought all of these things up in my head, and I don't remember how I responded, but I do remember not wanting to wear that shirt again. Hey, Tasha, how are you? Hey, Kate, how are you? So I do remember that moment, and that was a moment that completely changed my life. Another moment that completely changed my life was on my first day of soccer practice in my first year of college. On the practice field at University of Pittsburgh at Bradford, a friend of mine came up to me and she's like, I got to tell you something. And I was like, what's up? What's going on? And she was like, I just needed to tell someone that I'm gay. And in my head, right? Not saying this out loud, but what went through my head was like, oh shit, man, gay people are going to hell. Like, that was the first thought I had, because I was raised in this conservative Christian upbringing that said gay people were going to hell. And so I had to reconcile myself to, this is my friend, and I love people, and something that I was always taught to value as a kid is like loving people, helping people, doing the best by people, and especially helping people who are in crisis or emotional turmoil. Like, that's something I was raised to do and to believe in. So I had this instant conflict in my head. And that was kind of like the shot that was heard around the world for me. Like, that was the bell that couldn't be unrung in terms of me understanding my own orientation. But it was also a crisis of, I care about this person and I'm friends with this person. What do I say in this moment? And then there's one more thing. So I had a friend who worked like in admissions at my college. I actually don't know if they worked at admissions, but we were just like having a conversation about like the makeup of our school, which was white was not the majority at my school. I don't believe it at best it was kind of like 50-50, but I went to school right outside New York City, so very diverse population. And one of my friends was like talking about like applying for college or for a job or something, and they were like, they read the name and they're like, oh, like why don't you just name your kid food stamp? And I was like, haha, like it was funny at the time, but not long after I realized like, yo, I've been on food stamps like my whole life. I grew up getting food stamps because my dad is a pastor. He made less money than I made at my first part-time job, and he was, the breadwinner for a family of four, and as an adult, like, I've been laid off and I've got food stamps. I've lived through a pandemic. I've got food stamps. And so thinking back on that moment, like, why don't you just name your kid food stamp? Like, that was super racist, and I was complicit to it in that moment. You know what I mean? And so, like, I had these 3 different awakenings at different points in my life, and I realized that, like, we have to do better, right? Like, there's no point in just realizing that you messed up and keeping it quiet and then living, like, the same way. Like, that doesn't help anybody. You know what I mean? And so, in the light of the absolute travesty that was the presidential debate, last night, it really got me thinking, like, what do you do? What do you do when you wake up and you realize that someone you've been following, someone you've been listening to, someone who's a leader, world leader, local leader, whatever, what do you do when you realize that the system of power that you've been complicit in is a total mess, man? Like, I have good friends who were telling me that, like, originally when Black Lives Matter came out, like, they didn't understand it. You know, they were in the All Lives Matter camp because, like, of course, all lives matter. But they have since come to understand, like, what the Black Lives Matter movement is about and why it's necessary. It was an awakening, right? And so what do when you wake up the morning after you realize that something that you were complicit to is just horribly damaging and flawed, and like your intentions might not have been bad, but it was an exercise in missing the point for you, right? So what do the morning after you have this awakening, this realization? How do you move forward, and how do you be a better person? I don't know the answer to what ails the world. I don't know the answer to even what ails like my area, but I do know the answer to what ails society lies primarily in people waking up the morning after, having an awakening and realizing I've got to do better. And I think it's really important right now that, like, if we as a collective society have been complicit in racism, have been complicit in homophobia, have been complicit in you know, I guess let's say like maybe abusive pro-life moments. I'm not sure how to explain the abortion story, but the right word for it. But if we've been complicit in these moments that are hurtful and that are marginalizing, it's super important that we stand up and say, like, that was me, I did it, you know. Because like my friend that was talking to me about, you know, the Black Lives Matter, All Lives Matter thing, great person, fantastic person. And I think it takes more moral fiber to stand up and say, I was wrong and my opinions have shifted. I was wrong and my convictions and science and whatever has led me to a better understanding of the situation. So I'm going to model that with this video and say, like, hi, my name's Leo. I was racist and I was homophobic. And I was like oppressive, with my understanding of religion. I was ham-fisted at best, right? And I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry. And we've got to do better as a world. And if everybody owns up to at least one small thing, we can all move forward in a positive way, because I'm not making a judgment about someone who owns up to an area where they've learned. Like, I can't be mad at a child for doing something silly or something hurtful if they've never been taught to do better. I would never be mad at my child for doing something like this, that, or the other, but I would use it as a teaching moment, right? And so I can't be mad at my friend whose opinion has grown. Now this is another level. Bring this back to yourself. Like, I can't be mad at myself, because I don't know about you, but sometimes, like, I am more mean to myself than anyone else in the world could be. And so I have to really work through it internally and say, like, your intentions weren't bad, but you didn't know. You were ignorant. And so this is how we do better, right? This is the conversation I'm having with myself. This is how we do better. And so I don't know the answer to what ails the world, but I do know that the morning after, when we have an awakening, it's our personal mandate to do better. So I guess I would just challenge everybody to do better today. I don't know what doing better looks like for you. I don't know if doing better has anything to do with the presidential debate, but that was just my logical jumping off point. But we've got to do better today, and we've got to own up to things that have happened in our past, because, like, I'm not going to judge you for something you didn't know better about, you know? And if we were all to be truly authentic, like, the only way that we can self-actualize and reach our highest self, and our integration within ourselves emotionally, spiritually, physically, all of that, is to root out the crappy stuff. Root it out, call it out, and get rid of it and move forward, you know? As long as you do better once you know better, that's all you need to be a good person. And that's all you need to create change in the world, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, right? Like I said, I don't know all the answers. Jelena, I am trying to read your comment, but I can't seem to get it. Oh, yes, as long as you recognize and you do better, that really is all you can do. That is how change starts in the world. So that's my challenge for you. If you want to comment on this video, if you want to share this video, that's cool. This is what Conversations is all about. Just having honest gut level conversations around things that matter, spiritually, socially, emotionally, all of these things that matter, right? So I was a racist, and I was super homophobic and super transphobic. Ironic, right? But I now know better, and so I now will do better. So in the light of what happened last night nationally, what can you personally do better? What can I personally do better? How can we create change in a world where there's big power structures that are flawed, and I'm just one person, right? But I know I can do better today than I did yesterday, and that's what I'm working for. We definitely need leaders who are peaceful and loving and open to change. Absolutely. Any great leader needs to be open to evolving, because the world is always evolving. So we need leaders. I did hear a cool quote the other day, though, that really gave me some hope, because sometimes I get just so overwhelmed by how crappy our power structures are at the moment. And the quote was that, don't panic, because power structures are downstream from consciousness. What that quote means is that we as a society and as a world come to a consensus, a consciousness up here, and then we build power structures, or we change power structures, or we amend power structures from that. So I think part of what's happening in the world right now is there's a consciousness that's growing around equality and systemic racism and injustice and homophobia and Islamophobia. Like, there are all of these things that there's a consciousness building. I don't think in my life I've ever seen a greater moment of cultural consciousness and cultural awakening. And hope and power structures flow from consciousness. So we need to not get so caught up right here, right? Because this is changing, and then we will keep working, and we'll keep fighting, and we'll keep making the world a better place. I don't know, that's my thoughts for the day. Drop some comments, share this video. I'd love to engage in the conversations with you guys. I would love for other people to engage in conversations, period. This is the whole point, is building conversations, creating community, and tackling diverse and tough topics so that we can make the world a better place. Morgan, you're totally right. It is not hypocritical to realize that your opinion was flawed. It is not hypocritical to realize that you have made a mistake. You are not bound to the things that you used to think. I am no longer bound to the homophobic, Islamophobic, transphobic, racist ideas that I was, taught by my culture. And I'm saying culture at large, not any one specific culture, but I'm not bound to stay that person. I don't have to, and I'm not a hypocrite for growing, and I'm not a hypocrite for awakening, and I'm not a hypocrite for evolving. I gotta forgive myself, and I gotta hold myself to the standard of doing better, right? Because it doesn't matter if you know this and never change, it doesn't matter, but you gotta hold yourself to the standard of doing better. So today, I'm gonna go get dressed, I'm gonna go to work, I'm gonna be a parent, I'm gonna be a hairdresser, I'm gonna be a conversation facilitator, I'm gonna be all the things that I'm gonna be in the world, but I'm gonna do it better than I did it yesterday, because I have a greater level of awakening and consciousness and spiritual awareness today than I did yesterday. And it's not hypocritical to grow and to evolve. It is, in fact, perhaps the heart of spirituality. Hey, Kaylee, how are you? You hopped on right as I was like coming to my crescendo. So I'm going to go get ready for work, my friends. I would love to have some more comments or some more conversations about this in the comments, on the page. Share it, like it. I am trying to build this into both a YouTube channel and a podcast so that we can have some greater accessibility. And hopefully in the future, conversations will be a tangible thing that can happen. Stay tuned. I've got some ideas. But yeah, like, share, comment, spread. Let's build the conversation. Let's elevate the conversation. Let's change our world. And you're not powerless. In the wake of what happened last night, you're not powerless. There is something that you can do. You can control you. You can make the world a better place. Morgan, I'm going to read your comment as soon as I get off of this. Everybody have a great day. This video will be up for post. Please like, share, comment, tag, do whatever you will. But keep the conversation going.